Hi, I'm Weston. I love talking about the Astros, and I'm here to talk about Game 26 of the regular season. Astros over the Rays, 9-2. And oh boy, what a game for the Astros. A nice way to bounce back from the 1-0 loss yesterday. And an absolute gem by Lance McCullers Jr. on the mound, the boy whose jersey I'm repping right now. So getting right into it, first inning, the Astros would strike. They'd make it a 1-0 game after that. Altuve would ground out, which was a real theme for today for him, sadly. Brantley would single, which was also a theme for him. Bregman would pop out. Yordan Alvarez would single, and then that would move Brantley over to third. Correa would single to score Brantley to make it 1-0, and Diaz would ground out. In the third, Altuve would ground out to start it again, which theme. Brantley would single, which theme, and Bregman with a deep, deep home run to left field. It is gone. No ballparks contained in that bad boy. 3-0 Astros relatively early on. And then after that, Yordan Alvarez would single again. Correa, or not again, excuse me, but no, it was again. Correa would hit a ground rule double. Diaz would ground out, but it would still score Yordan Alvarez. Tucker would walk, and Straw would strike out to end the third. In the fourth, Maldonado would triple, Altuve would ground out, Brantley would single to make it a 5-0 game, Bregman strikes out, and Yordan grounds out to end that inning. Then it goes a little bit in the bottom of the fourth. I did want to mention this. A great pick by Aledmys Diaz at first. Not his normal position, giving Yuli a day off, and just a beautiful pick out of the dirt on a pretty bad throw by Carlos Correa. So that was a really nice play by Aledmys Diaz, and I wanted to make sure I put that in there. In the seventh, Brantley would single, excuse me, again, theme for tonight. Bregman would pop out, Yordan would strike out, Correa would single, Diaz would then single to make it a 6-0 game. Tucker would walk to load the bases, but then sadly Straw would pop out to end that inning. Tucker, by the way, walked 3 times today, which I will mention a little bit later on. And after that inning, Lance would leave after 7 scoreless innings of just incredible baseball by Lance McCullers Jr., and I will talk about him a little bit more at length in a minute. In the 8th, Kent Emanuel would come in. Meadows would single on this really weird play by Brantley where he came running in to dive and catch it. But I want to mention this was a brilliant play by Michael Brantley because he knew he wasn't going to get it. So instead of diving and laying out like this with the glove, he put it up and just kind of batted the ball back in the dirt and spiked it to Alex Bregman, which allowed the runner to not advance past first, which was a really, really nice play by Michael Brantley there, and I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. So instead of being maybe a double or a triple, it ended up just being a single, which was good. In the 9th, Bregman would single, Yordan would fly out, Correa would double, Diaz would double to make it an 8-0 game. A walk to Kyle Tucker. Again, he would walk 3 times tonight. Diaz would then go to third on that ball, by the way, to Tucker, because it just kind of kicked behind his heel. He didn't move, and no one told the catcher where the ball was, which kind of rough for the team to have been that checked out that no one was like, it's behind the guy, and they were just all kind of standing there like, huh, someone should really find that ball, huh? So that was just kind of rough. Like, I understand it's at this point an 8-0 game, so if you check out, I'm not like, you know, I kind of get it. That being said, it's just very unusual to see professionals do that. Like, it's normal in like a beer league, but, you know, this is MLB. You don't really see that every day. Then after that, Straw would hit a sac fly to make it a 9-0 game, and Maldonado would fly out to end the 9th. In the bottom half of the 9th, Andre Scrubb would come in, and it was not a great inning for Andre Scrubb. It was rough. Yandy Diaz would ground out, then Joey Wendell would single, Mike Zunino would walk, Kevin Kiermaier would draw a walk. Kevin Kiermaier, my grandfather's very favorite Tampa Bay Ray, I might add. After that, Tsugo would pop out, Willy Adames would single to make it a 9-2 game, and Austin Meadows would strike out to end it. Now, that was a rough inning by, you know, Andre Scrubb. So that was rough for him. It was bad. He had no control, and it showed. Boy, oh boy, it was a rough inning for him. So, pitching lines for the night. Lance McCullers Jr., 7 innings, 3 hits, no runs, 3 walks, and 9 strikeouts, which I will again talk about in a minute. Kent Emanuel, 1 inning of work, 1 hit, no runs, no walks, 2 Ks. And Andre Scrubb, 1 inning, 2 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, and a strikeout. So, Lord have mercy, it was rough for him. So, final thoughts. Lance McCullers Jr., the star of the evening for the Houston Astros. 9 strikeouts, all of them swinging, An absolute dominant performance for him. And I know it wasn't great Sunday, but I want to talk about 2 really good starts back-to-back. 6 innings of 2-run baseball is not bad coming off of the Johnson & Johnson COVID shot incident that happened with him that made him so weak. Again, I just want to keep mentioning this because the MLB made us, Major League Baseball, they made us play that game. They didn't let us, sit it out. So I just want to keep pounding it in that is a thing that happened where he could barely stand and then needed IVs after. After that game, 6 innings, 2 runs, pretty good. Now 7 innings, no runs, 9 strikeouts. Very, very good. Excellent game by Lance McCullers Jr. And the Astros, who are a awful, awful team in Tropicana Field, the last 10 games going into tonight in the Trop, 8 regular season and 2 in the postseason, they were 2-8. The only 2 pitchers, I'll give you a high five through the internet if you can tell me who they are. The last 2 pitchers to win in Tropicana Field are, any guesses? It is Lance McCullers Jr. in 2018, which actually happened 2 days after my birthday and 1 day before I went and watched Garrett Cole pitch in Tropicana, which is a neat little fact back then. And the next pitcher was, any takers? It was Justin Verlander in 2019, which was 1 game before I went and watched Garrett Cole pitch again, which I think is kind of funny that both times I've seen the Astros in person, Garrett Cole was on the mound. But Lance McCullers absolutely dominant tonight, and his last 2 starts in Tropicana Field, in his hometown of Tampa Bay, 14 innings, 16 strikeouts, 6 hits, 5 walks, no runs. And tonight, to talk about how dominant he was, like I said, 9 swinging strikeouts, and of his 111 pitches, 72 of them for strikes. Absolute dominance by Lance McCullers Jr. I want to go back and just keep watching his strikeouts for tonight because, my goodness gracious, did he have himself a night. Kent Emanuel, also on the pitching line, had a very nice night. He came in, nice inning of work, picked up a pair of strikeouts. That's great for him. Love to see Kent Emanuel starting to look pretty darn good at this level, especially wearing that number 0, which is a massive middle finger to the league, which I think is hilarious. And Scrub is, let's call it a work in progress, huh? This was a rough night for him in his first game back. Because at first, it was the bloop single by Joey Wendell in the walk, and I started kind of giggling to myself of like, it's the normal Andre Scrub start. And then it went real downhill, and I'm like, oh, it isn't the normal Andre Scrub start. This is a real rough one for him, and it was bad. Thankfully, it was a massive lead for the Astros, but at some point, you start to wonder, it's like, okay, if that's the tying run, 3 batters back, at what point do you maybe pull Scrub? Which is not something you want to think when you go into an inning up 9-0. And it was starting to creep into the back of my mind, which is just rough. And while I maintain that Lance McCullers Jr. is the star for the evening, and he is certainly my best player, my player of the game if I had to pick one, the offense also had a very, very nice night. You can't look past 9 runs in a game. Like, that is fantastic for them. Michael Brantley had a fantastic night, 4 hits and 3 runs. Nothing wrong with that. Take that every day of the week, my man. Alex Bregman, again, 2 hits and a home run, so that was pretty cool for that. He had a nice night. And Aledmus Diaz, giving the Astros' best hitter, Yuli Gurriel, the night off, just happens to come in and have 4 RBIs, which is nothing to scoff at right there. Nice 4 RBI night for Aledmus Diaz, and that super sweet pick at first in the 4th inning. Tucker also, I want to mention this, he didn't have any hits, he was 0 for 2, but 3 walks for Kyle Tucker, which is a positive to see for him, because going into this, I think his walk rate on Baseball Savant was in the 7th percentile, which is really bad. So picking up 3 walks, that's a big chunk of all of his walks this season, which is nice to see for him. And that is it for this game. Great game by the Astros, pitching, aside from Andre Scrub, and offensively just a fantastic game. No complaints from me. Lance McCullers, again, just, man oh man, was he great tonight. And that is it for this one. We play again tomorrow at 4:10 Eastern Time. Jose Urquidy will be making the start, so that'll be an interesting one. Hopefully he can get back on track like Lance did tonight. And I'll be here after that game. So thank you all so very much for watching. I hope you all have an absolutely fantastic day. And as always, go Stros.